Okay, we'll start now. Before I start uh, regular Zoom session, because last week questions, model answers we have to see, and then today's topic on Hegel we have to continue. Uh, you might have seen the result of UPSC. Recently, it was declared, and incidentally, the third ranker is the student of philosophy optional. So just I want to tell all of you that philosophy optional is now one of the, important subjects as far as optional is concerned. And if uh, the concerned student or candidate studies it properly, definitely he is going to score very good marks and all India very good rank also in the UPSC exam. Uh, Today in our class, we will be first, because last week we have two questions on Kant. So first we will see the model answers pertaining to Immanuel Kant, and then we will see, the last chapter which I am taking from Western philosophy, that is Hegel. Uh, from next week, I will be starting Indian philosophy with Jainism. And then for next 2 months, that is May and June, we will continue Indian philosophy, and we'll try to complete about 70 to 80% course of Indian philosophy, because as in Western philosophy also, with Hegel, we have almost completed about 70% of the course. Balance 30% anyway, since there is lack of time. So the students can study themselves. One more thing I'm going to do is uh, we'll be stressing now more on model answers and questions, most probable questions and model answers. So on my YouTube channel, I will try that every week at least 2, 3 questions uh, model answers I put up so that students can access. Because definitely in regular classes also there will be few model questions and answers. In on YouTube channel also additional questions and model answers will be there. So it can be accessed from that place. Uh, as I have already told, the PDF, whatever we use in Zoom sessions, we keep in WhatsApp group and Telegram channel. From there, it can be accessed. From Telegram, you can access even the previous Zoom sessions PDF also, so that also students may note. Uh, the video recordings of the Zoom sessions we put on YouTube channel. So from there also, if some uh, additional thing you want to know or something has been left over, you can see, or previous videos also you can see. So with this introduction, now I will start whatever our regular this thing is there. So first we will see the model answers of the two questions pertaining to Kant, whatever was last week we have given. So for that, I need to share the PDF. So we'll share it and then. Okay, so we'll start now with, see, first let us see what was the question which was given last week. So these two questions were there. Uh, discuss Kant's Copernican revolution in metaphysics. And then second question was, Hume aroused me from my dogmatic slumber. Kant. This is statement of Kant. So discuss. In fact, these are important questions because earlier also, if you see previous year's questions, this has been asked. Last time we saw what were the previous year questions and how it has been asked. And Kant, as I told last time also, is very, very important chapter. Definitely there is going to be 20 to 30 mark question from Kant. So all students have to be very, very careful when studying Kant. So uh, what can be the model answers? Let us understand that. See, Kant's Copernican revolution in metaphysics. See, as you know, Kant started from just after Hume, that is empiricism. He tried to synthesize both rationalism and empiricism in his epistemology, and the same thing was applied in metaphysics. So basically, the answer will be covering almost, you can say, important points or most of the points from uh, Kant or his philosophy. So first, we have to start with what was the central question for the Kant? How knowledge is possible? So Kant arrived at conclusion that for knowledge, there has to be synthetic a priori judgments. Last week, we understood what was a priori, a posteriori, what is synthetic, what is analytic. So he arrived at conclusion that synthetic a priori judgments is the only source of knowledge, actual knowledge. Uh, what is mind's role? This is again important thing. And this is related to Copernican revolution. What is Copernican revolution, by the way? See, before Copernicus, as I last week also told, it was believed that sun revolves around the earth. But Copernicus came up with truth that no, actually earth revolves around the sun. So this is, I mean, basically totally opposite conclusion Copernicus came. So same thing as far as metaphysics is concerned, Kant also came up linking his metaphysics with epistemology. So what is mind's role in structuring knowledge? So first point is that Kant believed that synthetic a priori judgments is the main source of knowledge. Second point is what is the mind's role in structuring knowledge? Kant argued that knowledge is not passively received from experience. I mean, if you remember, Hume and other empiricists, they told that total knowledge comes from experience and mind is a very passive recipient. So Kant said, no, knowledge is not passively received from experience, but actively structured by the mind. Every event must have a cause, is not derived from experience. I mean, we know, I mean, Hume has anyway, if you remember, Hume has opposed causality as well as induction, both theory of induction. So uh, he can't say that every event has a cause. This is, or every result has a cause. This is required for science and other mathematics, etc., to be correct. And this cannot be arrived at, or this cannot be known by experience alone. So this is, I mean, therefore, structuring by mind is required. So knowledge is structured by mind. Now, how? I mean, this was a departure from both rationalism and empiricism. If you remember, rationalism says that innate ideas are in mind. Empiricists say that mind is a blank state, tabula rasa. That was Locke's statement. Kant says no, mind imposes necessary structure on experience, making knowledge possible. And he gave the argument of transcendental categories, categorical, because see, transcendental categories to justify his synthetic a priori claims. So he says that mind as an active participant. So this is basically now we are reaching to Copernican revolution. Mind as an active participant, like Copernicus, instead of assuming knowledge conforms to objects, he argued that objects must conform to mind, structuring principles. See, earlier belief was that knowledge conforms to objects. Kant reversed the whole thing. He says that no, objects must conform to mind's structuring principle. This shifted metaphysics towards analyzing the conditions of knowledge, and this is known as Copernican revolution, basically. So earlier, theory was that knowledge depends on objects. Kant says, no, objects or knowledge of objects depend on structuring by mind. So he has rejected limits of empiricism. He has rejected innate ideas. Instead, Kant says that their mind has a priori forms and not innate ideas. So he rectified rationalists, he rectified empiricists, and therefore, Kant says that mind's a priori forms, they structure the knowledge. And accordingly, knowledge is not dependent on the object, but more dependent on mind's a priori forms. So this is basically Copernican revolution. Now, Kant's view, the mind actively structures experience, objects conform to its cognitive framework. So this is what Kant's theory of knowledge and metaphysics, both are, in a way linked also here, because how you obtain the knowledge of objects and how actually objects are perceived by mind. So both are linked with each other. Now, what is critical? Let us critically evaluate, because in every question, definitely after describing what is the main idea, then you have to critically evaluate that idea. So strengths. Definitely, Kant has synthesized both rationalism and empiricism. So that point we have to bring out here. So bridges rationalism and empiricism. Then Kant's influence on later thought is very, very tremendous. So whether it is Hegel or whether it is Husserl or whether it is Heidegger, all these philosophers. So subsequent philosophers, Kant's impact was tremendous. And it shifted metaphysical focus, prioritized the conditions of knowledge over speculative metaphysics. Now, what is criticism? Because these are the strengths of his idea or his Copernican revolution, you can say. But what is the negative points? What are the criticism? The problem of noumena. This is very, very significant. Last week also we have discussed this, that if, he says phenomena and noumena. So Kant says that what we can know is only physical appearance, and actual reality we cannot know, because, and that is called noumena. So if all knowledge is mind dependent, the idea of an unknowable thing in itself is problematic. So this is a negative point here. Then cognitive science also raises questions about Kant's strict a priori structures. This also last week we have seen. So cognitive science, there is a issue, because a priori structures, what Kant says, it can be beyond that. It can be, much more. Kant's strictness of only 12 a priori structures is not correct. Then subjectivity of knowledge. If knowledge is structured by mind, can objective reality be truly known? So Kant's theory that mind processes the knowledge, and in a way it becomes subjective, and it's not object dependent, it's more on mind dependent. So this also is a negative, this thing, criticism of Kant. Kant's lasting impact, this in conclusion we need to write. So Kant's Copernican revolution redefined knowledge. Unlike Hume, he saw the mind as an active agent that organizes experience. So this conclusion also we need to write, and this completes our question. So first we have to describe what is Copernican revolution, and then we have to see what are its strengths, then what are its weaknesses, and then finally conclusion. Now, second question was, Hume aroused me from my dogmatic slumber. This was Kant's statement, and this has come several times in exam also. Previous year's questions, if you see, either in short note, 150 words, or in even 15 marks questions also, combined with some other part of Hume or Kant also, it comes. What was Hume's philosophy? So here, basically, we have to deal with not only Kant, but also Hume also. How Hume, what was Hume's philosophy, and how it affected Kant's philosophy, and how Hume's ideas, aroused Kant from dogmatic slumber. So basically, we have to start from Hume, and we have to continue its impact on Kant, and what was reaction from Kant. So all those things need to be mentioned. See, Hume's philosophy was in a way a skeptic philosophy. Uh, Now, Kant has given this statement. This statement I have quoted. In actual answer, you may write or may not write depending on number of words, but this is what he has given. And this Hume aroused me from my dogmatic slumber is actually a statement, part of this statement of Kant, that David Hume's attack on metaphysics was more decisive for its fate than any other event, since the earliest recorded beginnings of metaphysics, and it was my recollection of David Hume that broke into my dogmatic slumber. So this is Kant's statement, and this statement is part of this larger statement. And we know that Hume has rejected the metaphysics altogether, to burn it to flames. I mean, that statement also we will see subsequently. But Hume challenged reasons, reliability of reason in acquiring knowledge. He says that experience is the source of knowledge. Uh, in fact, let us see Hume's statement. Hume's in response to Kant's sought to address Hume's skepticism, declaring, now again, this is Kant's statement, that human problem is completely solved, though in a way that would have surprised its inventor. Instead of concept of understanding being derived from experience, experience is derived from them. So this is Kant's statement on Hume, basically. So he says that instead of a knowledge, instead of being dependent on experience, experience is actually derived from the concepts, that is the categories or the so concepts of understanding formulates the knowledge. So basically, what was Hume's problem? This also is very important. We should understand the Hume's forks. In fact, sometimes in short notes, this also comes. Here also we need to mention a little, because this is related to Hume's philosophy or main idea on which Kant has built his Kant, because the Hume's skeptic philosophy has aroused Kant from his slumber. So this also we need to mention. So Hume divided knowledge in two categories. That is termed as Hume's forks. The first category is matter of fact. So that is a posteriori knowledge, contingent and derived from experience. Second is relation of ideas. That is a priori. And this is necessary knowledge, but not derived from experience. And this is not a new knowledge, basically, as we have already understood that a priori knowledge earlier to Kant was not a new knowledge. It's only contained already in the same sentence, whether it is mathematical. So, for example, uh, uh, if you say all unmarried or all bachelors are unmarried, so this is already contained in that. So like that, he Hume told that knowledge is of two kinds: matter of fact and relation of ideas. And according to Hume, statements outside these, such as concerning God, soul, that is metaphysics, are meaningless. In his book, An Inquiry Concerning Human Understanding, Hume has given this statement. And this also sometimes is asked in exam to describe this statement. So this is also related, because if we take in our own hand any volume of divinity or school metaphysics, for instance, let us ask, does it contain any abstract reasoning concerning quantity or number? No. Does it contain any experimental reasoning concerning matters of fact and existence? No. Commit it then to flames, for it can contain nothing but sophistry and illusion. So basically, what Hume is saying, if knowledge is, if metaphysics belongs to matter of fact, then it's okay, or if it belongs to relation of ideas, then, but since metaphysics does not belong to any of these two, therefore it's nothing but sophistry and illusion, and therefore it should be burned to flames. So this is what Kant's Hume's statement was, and Hume's theory was regarding knowledge, and particularly regarding knowledge of metaphysics. Hume, as I already have told, has rejected the theory, causality, and he has also rejected induction. So what was Kant's response to this? Kant responded that synthetic a priori knowledge can be the source of knowledge. because and this was a reply of Kant to Hume's skepticism. And because as we have earlier also in last chapter we saw, Kant wanted that causality should be reestablished. The cause and effect cannot be, only because Hume told that there is no logical connection. It's only experience, or it's only uh, uh, not logical connection between cause and effect. It's only experienced in a matter of habit. Kant thought that no, this if that is true, then whole science and mathematics will not be possible. So his effort was to reestablish the causality and as well as induction, etc. So therefore, Kant brought this synthetic a priori knowledge. And how it is possible? Uh, so because of this synthetic a priori knowledge, causality as well as induction, as well as science, as well as mathematics is possible. This is what Kant's effort was, and he wanted to prove that. So, uh, he has also, last time also we saw that Kant himself has given the example that, for example, mathematics, 7 plus 5 is equal to 12 is a new example, so it's possible. Uh, in physics, uh, Newton's laws known a priori but applied necessarily to the empirical world. Metaphysics, concept of space and time, enduring objects, and causality are not derived from experience but are prerequisites for coherent experience. So what Kant says, space and time are the forms of our perception, while causality and substance are categories of our understanding. So thus we do not impose these structures on the world, rather they shape our experience of it. So these are things in mind. So uh, Kant's role was that using this space-time, uh, that is our forms of perception, while causality and substance, categories of understanding, he re-established the whole theory of causality or theory of induction, and also uh, he proved that mathematics, physics, all these things are possible. Uh, Kant, yes, however, Kant admitted that knowledge is only regarding phenomena. We cannot know anything about noumena, that is beyond our jurisdiction. So that is anyway, we have seen that is a defect in Kant's philosophy, because if you see the ultimate reality is unknowable, then how you are going to justify the physical appearance also? So that is a problem. Many philosophers have pointed out, but yes, that what Kant stated. Now, what is the role of freedom and practical reason? Now, Hume saw only empirical world governed by natural laws, leaving no room for free will. Kant, however, introduced the dual perspective. That is theoretical reason, that is human actions are determined by phenomena, and practical reason, that is considers human as a nominal agent with free will. So basically, his Kant's distinction between phenomena and noumena is here also applicable to free will also. This allows moral responsibility while maintaining scientific determinism. So from nominal point of view, agents are free. From phenomenal points of view, that is human beings are not free. So therefore, Kant tries to justify like that. Now, what is critical evaluation of this? Kant's this thing of arousing from dogmatic slumber and all those things. So was Kant able to solve the Hume's problem? This is what we have to evaluate now. Despite the fact that he restored the theory of causality, he restored the induction thing, but at what cost? He could restore only for phenomenal thing, not for nominal thing. So noumena is unknowable. So mathematics or what are modern science, all those things, yes, Kant tries to reestablish, but the main weakness of Kant's philosophy is at the cost of restricting knowledge to appearances, because knowledge is not of reality, only of appearance. So this is what we have to write. Then other philosophers, how they have criticized Kant's philosophy, that these things we can write, Bertrand Russell or Newton's laws or even other thing. So this can be included, and then we can finally conclude this question. Now, after this, we have to start Hegel. Hegel is again a very, very important philosopher as far as Western philosophy is concerned. But before we come to Hegel, let us understand what topics we have to study in this. So, for example, we will go to syllabus. Let us see what is there in syllabus as far as Hegel is concerned. Now, syllabus says Hegel dialectic method and absolute idealism. So these two topics are given from uh, Hegel we have to study. Now, what are the previous year's question as far as Hegel is concerned? Let us see that also, so that we will keep in mind while studying, because I always keep on telling we should definitely, whenever we study, we should see syllabus, we should see previous year question paper, and try to identify important topics pertaining to the philosopher, so that we are not deviated, or we remain totally focused. So let us see what are the questions asked from Hegel. See, for example, first question, movement is contradiction itself. Examine in this context Hegel's dialectical method. So this is question on dialectical method. And 13, 23, and then again 12, 7, 2, 19, 21, 22. So if you see 10 to 12 years, at least 6 times it has been asked in last 10 years. Then there is a statement of Hegel, rational is real and real is rational. Then Hegel's view on God and its contribution to colonial and imperial expansion. And then again a statement of Hegel, all identity is identity and difference. So basically, these are the questions which have been asked from Hegel in last 12 years, which I have analyzed. You can also see all the previous year's question and then understand what is the main focus of Hegel's philosophy. Now, what are the important topics which we need to study in Hegel? So after going through PYQs and syllabus, we need to identify the important topics. See, for Hegel, I have identified 3 topics. Hegelian dialectical method, this is very important, 5-6 times it has been asked, every almost alternate year it has been asked. Then the statement, real is rational and rational is real. And then all identity is identity and difference, that is absolute idealism. So these 3 topics we will study in detail. So our strategy will be again same. First, we will try to understand basic points in Hegel's philosophy. And then we will try to study these 3 topics in little detail, just to understand if any kind of question comes in on these topics, we can answer. Okay, so then let us start. Okay, we will start with the basic philosophical points as far ideas of Hegel. All of us know Hegel was one of the most important philosophers in Western philosophy, and he has a lot of impact also, not only on philosophy, but also on politics, statecraft. For example, on Marx and Engels also, there is a huge impact of Hegel. Marx dialectical materialism, if some of you might have studied already, is directly derived from dialectical method of Hegel. Similarly, the many authoritarian rules in Western world also have derived inspiration from Hegel. So, I mean, Hegel has been a very, very influential philosopher as far as uh, Western philosophy is concerned, as far as world is concerned. He has written, his key works are basically Phenomenology of Mind, Encyclopedia, Philosophical Sciences, Philosophy of Right, etc. Now, Hegel's idealism, I mean, his philosophy is idealism, and he has given basically idealism which is different from Berkeley, or which is different from Plato. That also we will understand subsequently. But what Hegel's philosophy says, reality is eternal, systematic, and an unchangeable whole. So basically, a material world exists, and every object, but the objects are real, though ephemeral. Each existing thing is an aggregate of universal, ultimately organized into an all-inclusive, self-consistent whole called the absolute. So sometimes his idealism is also called absolute idealism. So he was basically an exponent of absolute idealism. And his absolute is basically, you can say spirit, you can say nature, you can say God or whatever. I mean, so unlike Spinoza, because Spinoza is again an idealistic philosopher, uh, unlike Spinoza, Hegel's, I mean, philosophy, or he proposed a dynamic and interconnected system, reality as a many in one or one in many. So this is what Hegel's proposition was. How Hegel is different from Plato? Let us understand this, because Plato is again idealistic philosophers. See, Hegel modified Plato's hierarchy of ideas. If you remember first chapter, Plato has given a hierarchy of ideas, right from basic idea to idea of good. So Hegel says that Plato has failed in explaining why the idea of good is at the apex. He argues that Plato did not arrange his ideas on a logical basis. Plato failed to explain why particular things follow from ideas. So basically, unlike Plato's abstract forms, Plato has given theory of forms. So it's very, very important question you may be remembering. Hegelian ideas are concrete and real and completely logical and not arbitrary. So what Hegel says, there is thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. This is what his dialectical method or dialectical process continues. And what are the categories? Being, not being, and becoming. So being is basically thesis, not being is antithesis, and becoming is synthesis of both being and not being. So this we should understand. This will repeatedly it will come in Hegel, because thesis, antithesis, and synthesis will come. And therefore, Hegel posits that every negation is determination. This kind of statement also. See, if you remember, Spinoza has given a statement: every determination is negation. In view of God, that if you determine any quality, you are limiting the God. That was Spinoza's concept. Hegel has given a reverse concept. Every negation is a determination. That is, there is a thesis, then you negate it by antithesis, and then a synthesis comes, which is a higher form of thesis. So basically, by negating a higher idea or negating an idea, we reach a further new idea. Now, what are key themes or important points in Hegel's philosophy or absolute idealism? Let us go through that. Reality as a thought thinking itself. This is important, because he says that reality is not merely a substance, but also a subject, that is thinking subject. So thinking subject and substance together constitute the reality. Then his idealism is objective idealism and not a subjective idealism. Because Berkeley's idealism, if we remember, is subjective idealism. Hegel's absolute idealism is objective idealism. That is, objects exist in individual mind. So Berkeley has given that objects exist in individual mind. Hegel says, no, the objective world as an unfolding of infinite thought within individual minds as its vehicle. Then reality is a coherent system. Absolute is not something isolated facts or interconnected by this thing, but it's logical whole, which is similar to mathematical system. So this is what Hegel's idea was. Reality is a very, very coherent and logical system. Now, fourth point he has told, it's dialectical structure of reality. What is dialectical structure? Absolute develops through a series of triads, conceptual triads. Conceptual triads. Triads means, again, same thing. Thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. This is triad, Hegel's triad. So basically, absolute develops through a series of conceptual, not once, a series of conceptual triads. First, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, then again, whatever is synthesis, again it becomes thesis. So it in a series, it develops further. Now, absolute idealism, what is Hegel's absolute idealism? Hegel says that reality is a single integrated whole. if there were multiple realities, they would limit one another. So he has again contrasted his reality or his absolute idealism or his absolute with Spinoza's ideas, Spinoza's absolute monism. If you remember, Spinoza has given theory of monism, abstract monism, or Leibniz has given Leibniz monads, number of monads, so plural reality. So Hegel sees reality as an organic whole where the many exist within one. This is Hegel's theory. So basically, if you Indian philosophy, some of you might have already gone through. So Hegel's absolute is just like Ramanuja's Brahm. So there is Shankaracharya's Brahm and Ramanuja's Brahm. So basically, Hegel is somehow akin to Ramanuja's Brahm, a systematic unity which in which all things animate or inanimate participate. So reality is neither pure identity nor pure difference. It includes both. What is dialectical method? Dialectical method, again, same thing will come. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. So dialectical method follows a triadic movement. So triadic movement. So movement of three steps, basically. Triadic means three steps. That is, first is thesis, then antithesis, and synthesis. And this process continues in series. Every thesis or antithesis creates a synthesis, and again it becomes thesis. So this process reconciles contradictions and preserves substantial elements in a higher unity. So Hegel identifies three dialectical laws. So there are three key dialectical laws which Hegel has given. That is transformation of quantity to quality, then interpenetration of opposites, and law of negation. So Hegel's dialectic is basically uh, uh, tracing the logical necessity behind reality's unfolding. His system preserves lower categories within higher ones, making the absolute the logical foundation of all existence. So if we assume that absolute is the highest of this triadic process or series of movement, then it means the absolute incorporates all the lower things, all the lower steps. So that's what Hegel means, and that's why it becomes absolute idealism. Hegel outlines three levels of knowledge. First is general knowledge, that is sensory perception. Second is ideational knowledge, that is recognizing commonalities of general laws. And third is philosophical knowledge. Philosophical knowledge is the highest kind of knowledge, understanding objects as expression of the absolute idea. The absolute idea is the supreme consciousness, all-encompassing and self-realizing. Now, Hegel has also criticized previous idealistic theories. For example, Berkeley's idealism. Hegel rejects it because Berkeley is subjective idealism, that everything is in mind only. Everything only mind exists and ideas exist. That's what Berkeley has told. Now, for Hegel, no, an objective and all-inclusive system is there. Spinoza uh, has given monistic theory, monistic idealism, which negates individual entities. And in fact, Hegel has described Spinoza's philosophy as a black night. I mean, this is again an important statement because sometimes in Spinoza it comes, sometimes in Hegel comes, and sometimes it may be asked to elaborate. So, a black night where all cows are equally black. So, this is Hegel's criticism regarding Spinoza's philosophy. Then, for Leibniz, he has criticized his uh, pluralistic monadic theory that fails to integrate unity. So this is previous, I mean, earlier idealist theories he has criticized. Now, what is criticism of Hegel? Because, okay, we need to critically evaluate Hegel's absolute idealism also. Hegel has been criticized for encouraging despotism and totalitarianism. So this is important because uh, Hegel's theory has been used by Hitler, by Mussolini, by other um, uh, authoritarian regimes also to justify this thing. Because his absolute idealism has been uh, used by them. Now, second criticism comes is Hegel uses selective objective historical evidence to support his system, support his dialectical method. So this is again a problem in Hegel. Third is failing logical rigor in dialectical necessity. Because one critic, Findlay, has said that it is more like a artistic rather than mathematical necessity. So this is what criticism of Findlay of Hegel's dialectic method. But as we know, despite all this criticism, Hegel's influence is very, very big. We know that Karl Marx's theory was mostly based on Hegel's dialectical method, and Kant actually, Marx actually used it for dialectical materialism, opposed to Hegel. Hegel has used dialectical idealism, he used for dialectical materialism. That's what, but the method he used copied from Hegel. Then, in conclusion, we can understand that Hegel's philosophy integrates all previous thoughts, particularly his philosophy is called a very, very rational kind of, because as you know, it makes it whole system very coherent and evolving. His dialectical method reveals the rational structure of reality, and he has emphasized that the rational is real and real is rational. So this is again an important statement which we will be subsequently seeing how to elaborate that, because this from exam point of view also this is important. But as we have understood that there is a lot of opposition from philosophers like Russell, Moore, etc. Because the Hegel's philosophy, particularly his support to despotism or authoritarian regimes, has been criticized a lot. And his dialectical method also has been criticized for being more as a artistic rather than logical and mathematical. Now, first topic we will try to understand in detail from Hegel is Hegelian dialectical method, because this we have seen is very, very important from exam point of view. Part of it in the introduction also we have seen that. So we'll quickly try to cover this thing. But see, Hegel's dialectical method is interplay of contradictions that drive development. So basically, in a series of, if you can say, triadic movement, the development occurs. That's what Hegel's philosophy was. And there are three stages: thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. What is thesis? Thesis is an initial idea or position. What is antithesis? A reaction to that which contradicts or negates the thesis. Synthesis is a solution that integrates elements of both, that is thesis as well as antithesis, leading to a higher level of understanding. Now, this method has, as I've already told, profoundly influenced dialectical materialism, where Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels adapted it to analyze historical and social evolution. So basically, Hegel's dialectic method is a dynamic and dialectical. Basically, this ensures that reality becomes a dynamic and dialectical. Reality is not something static. It keeps on moving from one step to other. A method that reflects its evolving nature. It's evolving as well. His dialectic is a rational and logical process rather than an empirical one. So this a rational and logical process rather than an empirical one. Now, what are its core principles? What are core principles of dialectical movement? See, Hegel's dialectic is a triadic movement. This we have understood earlier also, wherein spirit evolves through thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Contradictory elements are reconciled, preserving harmony while transforming substantive elements in Hegelian terms. The thesis and antithesis are sublated in synthesis. What are three laws of dialectics? Key three laws of dialectics. This again, earlier topic also we have seen that, where a brief philosophy of Hegel was explained. The transformation of quantity into quality, the interpenetration of opposites, and the negation of negation. So these three are the key laws of dialectics of Hegel. Now, Hegel illustrates this with the category of being, non-being, and becoming. So, being is basically thesis, non-being is antithesis, and becoming becomes the synthesis. So, basically, within nature, we find the triadic of mechanics. Within spirit, we encounter subjective spirit, objective spirit, and absolute spirit. So basically, in every reality, you can find this kind of triadic movement. So Hegel contends that dialectics enable humans to comprehend the world as God does, thinking his thoughts after him. Higher categories, now this is again important for Hegel, higher categories contain and preserve lower ones. For example, becoming retains both being and non-being. The highest category of absolute thus encapsulates and all preceding categories, forming the logical foundation of existence. So absolute contains everything below that. Hegel has very, authoritatively told the rational is real or real is rational. This signifies that reality is a system of interrelated categories where the absolute is both the cause and consequence of being. So this is direct implication of dialectical method of Hegel. What are its philosophical implications? Let us understand that. In epistemology, Hegel is a rationalist who believes that reason reveals reality. So reality is revealed by reason. His dialectical method unfolds as an a priori logical process. So it's not through experience, but it's reason which reveals the reality. What is metaphysical importance? Reality is rationally structured. So actually, this explanation also is of this statement also, that rational is real and real is rational. So basically, epistemologically, it means that reason reveals the reality, and metaphysically, it means that reality is rationally structured with all elements synthesized organically rather than refuted. So Hegel's philosophy claims to integrate all preceding thought systems. So this is what claim of Hegel. What is critical evaluation of this dialectical method? Hegel remains one of the most controversial philosophers as well, because critics have argued that his method fosters authoritarianism and obscurantism. Now, Karl Popper is one of the critics who has criticized. He says that Hegel's dialectical method contributed to historicism and totalitarianism, lowering standards of intellectual responsibility. So basically, this is Karl Popper. Then Mario Bunge, he has criticized Hegelian and Marxian dialectics as fuzzy and remote form of science, calling dialectical laws false insofar as they are intelligible. So basically, he says that whatever dialectical laws he has given is fuzzy and remote from science, not related to reality, and it's false also. What Findlay has told, Findlay says that Hegel, a re-examination in his book, that is Findlay's book, argued that dialectical necessity lacks mathematical rigor and resembles artistic rather than logical necessity. So this we have Findlay's criticism we have read earlier also. Others accuse Hegel of selectively interpreting history to fit his philosophy, using single events to justify his triadic model arbitrarily. So this is basically criticism important because, as I have already told, in a good answer, definitely you have to critically evaluate the idea. So after writing what is dialectical method, what are its philosophical implications, what is impact on metaphysics or epistemology, and then you have to critically evaluate that. In that, you have to mention all these critical uh, elements from various critiques. And then finally, conclusion, anyway, you can write. Now, this is second topic, from Hegel, we need to study in little detail. Real is rational and rational is real. Discuss it or expand it or critically examine that. So all these kind of uh, questions may be framed out of this statement. Partly we have already seen what it means real is rational and rational is real. Here we'll see little more detail because these are important and these are interrelated also. Whatever we learn for this statement here, it can be used for his dialectical method also, his absolute idealism also, his metaphysics also, his epistemology also. So this thing we should understand. Now, Hegel says rational alone is real. Uh, Now, this statement basically is relating to his epistemology as well as metaphysics also, both. So, we can understand that uh, it reflects both his epistemological and ontological commitments within the framework of absolute idealism. So, this is basically first important remark about this statement, that this reflects both epistemology and ontology of Hegel in framework of absolute idealism. Now, what is first half of sentence? First half of the sentence is real is rational. This expresses Hegel's conviction that reality is rational and not chaotic or unknowable, but governed by rational structure known by reason. He rejected the idea that empirical observation alone could lead, and he says that only through rational thought can we truly grasp the nature of existence. So basically, reason is the main source through which we can understand the reality. So therefore, reality is rational. So this is a part of epistemology. Now, second half is rational is real, reveals Hegel's metaphysics. So what can be understood by reason is not just conceivable, but truly existent. That is, reason is not simply a human faculty, but very essence of being. So here it describes his metaphysics, that rational is real also. And he gave the statement that state is not merely a social construct, but the march of God on earth, a rational institution that embodies ethical life and historical progress. This statement of Hegel again has been misused by authoritarian regimes because by various monarchies, by various dictators, etc. So, I mean, for this, Hegel has been criticized heavily by various philosophers and critics. So, this identification of reason with reality places Hegel firmly with tradition of philosophical idealism. As we know, Plato and also Spinoza and Berkeley, all these philosophers have given idealism in different hues and colors. Now, Hegel's philosophy was absolute idealism. So, for Hegel, reason is not static but unfolds over time through dialectical development. History itself is the progressive realization of rational freedom. So, basically, Hegel breaks from Kant's dualism by rejecting the notion of things in themselves. And so basically, what is Kant's dualism? Phenomena and noumena. Kant has given a dualistic noumena cannot be known. Hegel has rejected this. He sees no meaningful divide between the appearance and reality. And reason is not a tool used to interpret reality. It is reality in motion. So reason is not a tool for interpreting reality, but rather it is reality itself. So therefore, rational is real. Also means anything irrational lacks true existence. So if rational is real, it means something is irrational is not real. lacks existence. So this is also another implication of this statement. So in Hegel's system, if something is irrational, nonsensical, or illusory, it doesn't exist, basically. So each stage, again, this principle undergrinds his dialectical method. That is, each stage of thought or history or progresses through rational necessity. Whatever emerges from this process must therefore be real, not just logically valid, but ontologically true. Now, let us critically evaluate this real is rational and rational is real. Now, his identification of state with rationality has been one of the most contentious aspects. Identification of state with rationality. If you remember, he has given the statement, state is march of God on earth. So his statement, his identification of state with rationality has been one of the most critical ideas or critical has been severely criticized in his philosophy. Critics have argued that equating political authority with absolute reopens the door to dangerous justification for authoritarianism. And this is what has happened also. For example, Hitler, Mussolini have rationalized their totalitarian regimes basing on Hegel's thought. So this is a severe criticism. However, influence on Marx is tremendous. As we know, his Marx dialectical method, dialectical materialism, he has, and accordingly, his whole Marxism is based on that. Now, third point which we will try to study from Hegel is, in detail, is absolute idealism of Hegel. Absolute idealism is a form of ontological monism. We know that already. Even though it is based on, because it is based on, it was initiated by Hegel, but earlier also there were philosophers like Bridley, Bosanquet, MacTaggart, etc., who have tried to enunciate this kind of philosophy. So absolute idealism seeks to explain how reality can ultimately be understood as an all-encompassing, coherent whole known as absolute. So this is basically absolute idealism of Hegel. Absolute idealism employs a new speculative philosophical method that introduces novel concepts and logical structures to demonstrate the dynamic unity of thought and being. So, and here in Hegel, absolute is not static, but a dynamic historical process that unfolds necessarily, developing increasingly complex forms of existence and consciousness. So this is again Hegel's idealism basic principles. Now, what are the core tenets of Hegel's idealism? Let us understand that also. Hegel's philosophy maintains that there is only one true reality, and that is called absolute. The reality is not a discrete entity or a collection of independent particulars, but a unified system known as absolute. Every part of this whole is organically interconnected. Hegel insists that reality is both self-consistent and all-encompassing. So basically, he has opposed a Leibniz monadic theory of pluralism, and also Spinoza's monism, and then subjective idealism of Berkeley, and then he has given his own theory of absolute idealism. Absolute here is as an organic whole. For Hegel, the absolute idea, that is mind or spirit, is the only true reality. The idea is not separate from word, but it is the word seen as a coherent systematic whole. All entities, animate or inanimate, are expressions of the absolute. Reality is an organic unity, not merely purely identity or pure difference, but a synthesis of both. So development, self-consciousness, interconnectedness define this whole. So basically, Hegel absolute is an organic whole, a total thing, all thing contained in absolute. Hegel's dialectical method, uh, as we know, allows uh, different approaches to understand the reality as a system of thought. So absolute is a system of thought, absolute is a nature, or as a spirit. So all three things can be understood uh, in Hegel's philosophy, that absolute uh, is either system of thought or as a nature or as a spirit. Uh, Absolute first appears as an idea, then as a nature, and then finally as a spirit. So this is basically, if you see, from one it moves to other and then to other. So first it appears as an idea, and then nature, and then spirit. Absolute is a living dynamic process and not a static thing. And its logical development, the real is rational and rational is real. This statement we have already seen. This statement, as we know, captures both his epistemology and metaphysics. Epistemologically, it reflects his belief that human reason can grasp reality because reason and reality are fundamentally the same. Metaphysically, it means that reality itself has rational structure. The dialectical method reveals that conflict and contradiction are inherent in the world and form from these opposition higher forms of being emerge. So basically, his system is both absolute and objective idealism. So Hegel's idealism is called absolute idealism or objective idealism, differing from Berkeley's subjective idealism. Uh, Now, what are its comparison with other idealistic theories? So Hegel's idealism is different from Spinoza's abstract monism. Uh, and as we have already seen, Hegel says that Spinoza's idealism is like a black night in which all cows are black, undifferentiated and abstract. Then Hegel's idealism is different from Leibniz. Hegel's idealism is different from Berkeley. This we have already seen. Same thing is also to be mentioned here also. In Hegel's view, the absolute is subject as well as substance. So absolute is idea as well as substance, both together. His system does not exclude realism or materialism, rather incorporates, sublets, overcomes, and preserves them within a higher unity. So it incorporates both uh, realism as well as materialism. Now, what are his critical comments as far as Hegel's absolute idealism is concerned? Similar things, I mean, earlier also we have seen G.E. Moore, Bertrand Russell, then Schopenhauer, then William James, and then existences like Sartre and Martin Heidegger. Basically, if you see Russell's and Moore's comments, they have criticized Hegelian philosophy as obscure and metaphysically extravagant. Then, if you see Schopenhauer, accused Hegel of reviving metaphysical arguments for God under guise of absolute. If we see James and Schiller, uh, they have opposed idealism for its monism and its impractical detachment from real life concerns. If we see existentialists like Sartre and Heidegger, they rejected Hegel's system for subordinating individual existence to a totalitarian or totalizing rational order. So, further, critics have questioned Hegel's conceptual uh, determinations which actually describe concrete reality. Then, what is its influence? Very, very influential philosophy. Strong reactions, though there were strong criticisms, but uh, it has impact on all subsequent philosophies, whether it is analytical philosophy or whether it is logical positivism or existentialism or even political Marxism. So in all these, Hegel's philosophy is quite impactful and has impacted. So with this, we complete Hegel. Now, what are the questions for next week? If we see, so we'll take up this question next week, discuss all identity, that is all identity is identity and difference. This is again a statement from Hegel. So describe it in 400 words. Model question, model answer will be given in next week. If any student wants to write to me, they can write on this mail ID, and so I will be happy to evaluate and reply back to that student. So this is question for next week. Now next week we will be starting Indian philosophy, and this is what schedule we would like to follow. So next week we will start with Jainism, and then Buddhism we will take in 2 sessions. Nyaya Vaisesik we will again take up 2 sessions. Sankhya Yoga again 2 sessions, and Vedanta in 2 sessions. So up to Vedanta I will cover. Then some small chapters, 2-3 chapters are left over. So this syllabus covers about 70 to 80% of Indian philosophy. So this I will be covering in the month of May and June. So this is again, I just want to inform all of you. Now, with this, I have reached the end of the this class. So now, if anybody wants to say anything, otherwise we'll close. Because from next week we'll be starting Indian philosophy, and so we'll meet everybody next week. Thank you everybody for participating. We'll close this. Thank you.